Cool.
Hey, good afternoon, guys. Welcome. Today we've got Bobby here with Redemption Stonecraft visiting us, Brian Edwards, Royal Oath Insurance Agency, and Shannon Savona here. I'm with eXp Realty. So
Yeah.
thought we were pretty excited to have Bobby in to talk about his company, Redemption Stonecraft. Pretty new business here in Clinton Township, just off of Gross Spec.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
looking forward to hearing more about it. And
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Welcome.
I appreciate you guys having me. So I like doing stuff like this and promoting the business and talking to you guys. So I
Right.
appreciate it. Yeah,
Right.
For sure.
Awesome. And Shannon, you're actually a client, right?
yeah. So Bobby, well, our girls are friends and they go to school together and stuff. And I heard about Redemption, kind of followed your story on social media as you were kind of building the business. And we were in the market for some countertops for our basement kitchen and came out and they had a beautiful piece that I fell in love with.
Cut a Milano.
Yeah. So you guys did that project. I think we came in on a Tuesday, and by the next Friday, it was installed and it was a done deal. So
Yeah.
super impressed with the
Yeah.
quick turnaround time, and you guys gave us a great price too. So
Yeah.
very happy.
Yeah, it looks good. I've seen it firsthand too. My wife and I were over not too long ago, so
Yeah.
it's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's tough right now because, like all costs has gone up, right? So obviously everybody's on a budget.
Yeah.
That's the hardest thing for us, and that's kind of what we're known for is working with people's budget, right? So you kind of have something in mind, and then I've been increased 4 times this year just on material alone,
Right,
So as a
right.
fabricator, it's tough because you're obviously trying to supply a customer something that they want, give them value for what they're spending their hard-earned money on. But every time you get increased, right, obviously material goes up, but fabrication cost kind of stays the same.
Right.
Through that and inflation and all that fun stuff, guys want to make more, it costs more to live, things like that. So there's a really hard blend to be competitive in the market, but then obviously service your customers on something that they want.
And do the job right.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
And it's not cheap, right? So, I mean, if you come into Redemption, the way it's set up, and you've been there obviously, is I put the whole shop open for everybody to see because, we invested as far as Redemption and the top equipment that you can buy. So,
Right.
We're all robotic, water jet, CNC, we have water filtration system, lasers to do all the measuring. When you put all that stuff together, not
Right.
cheap,
Yeah.
and a business is obviously there to make money and to recoup some money, but obviously pass along the cost to the customer at the same time. So it gets a little bit weird,
Yeah.
through increases
Tricky
and
balance,
stuff like
right?
that, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. When did you guys start Redemption?
Yeah, so I've been in the stone business for this is 23 years this year.
Okay.
I've kind of been running huge companies through the nation and consulting for them and basically taking these huge companies that do 30, 40 million a year
Right.
and they struggle to make money. And so from a facade, you look at these companies and you think they're the Mecca.
Yeah, right.
But I've been the guy to kind of go in there and peel back all the layers of the onion and actually see, wow, this is you're in bad shape right now.
Right, right.
So I ran a company locally here. We did, nationwide stuff, stadiums, things like that. And when Lila got pregnant, it was hard for me to consult anymore and
Right.
fly and travel and stuff like that. And so I decided to take a job with a local company here, and I saw value in me being able to go there and fix a lot of issues that they had. Because
Right.
I'm big into synchronous flow and stuff like that.
Right.
And so I did that for 4 years, and the company did really well. And
Yeah.
I decided at that point that I felt like the granite business was missing something, and it was really the interaction with the customer.
Okay.
So what's out there right now is you just kind of go in with a drawing, and they give you a price, and then boom, they're gone.
Okay.
And I felt like, man, this is something missing here. And for me, I like stuff like this. I like talking to people. I like educating people on what they're buying, what
Right.
to expect down the road,
Right.
and spending time with that customer. So there was no intimacy with the customer
Yeah.
with these bigger
Right.
shops. Not saying they do a bad job.
Right.
It's just
But
hey,
they
if
have a
you're-
ton of bids. They
For
have a
sure.
lot of people
Right.
working,
Right.
a lot of moving parts, and so
Absolutely.
that personal touch maybe was
Yeah.
missing a bit, right?
It was. And, for me, it's like I like dealing with people. And
Right.
so I always tell my people at Redemption is, we're a service company first and a granite company second.
Right.
And I think that's important, right?
Right.
Because, you guys are spending hard-earned money and it's a business. And so from a consumer to, a business, there's a relationship that has to
Right,
be there.
right.
You give me money and what do I give you back, right?
Right.
And I think it can be a little bit more than just countertops.
Right.
So I ended up November, big into my church and my faith, and so November hit, and I just was a little bit unhappy. The story is We were actually doing the Indiana Pacer Stadium. We had 3 shifts at the company that I worked at. I had about 140 guys that worked for me. So it was a lot, and I'm sitting on the phone. It's like 8:30 at night. I got this phone ringing. I got this phone ringing. This machine's down. This
Right.
superintendent in the Pacer Stadium is pushing, and all being my kids just want to spend time with me.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so I get off the phone, and my son Jackson's like, "Hey, Dad," and I kind of snapped and said, "What?" And then
Yeah.
it wasn't too aggressive, but
It's 8:30 at night. I'm on the
Right,
phone, man.
Exactly. and I just stopped and I looked at Lila, and she was sitting on the couch, and I said, "I'm done." And
Yeah.
she goes, "You're done with what?" I said, "I'm not doing this anymore."
Right.
I said, there's more important things I feel like in life, and I'm not going to let the money control me or make me the
Right.
person, whoever. And I said, so at this point, it's time to make a change. And she just looked at me. I said, all I need you to do is have my back, right? I don't know what we're going to do. I've got lucky enough to sell a company, so I've been really good with finance on my side.
Yeah. Right.
And so I said, we'll figure it out.
Right.
And I said, even if this means going back to just work and do sales for somebody,
Yeah.
like it just needs to be different than what it is now.
Right. Right.
And so we kind of slept on it, and that was in November. And so the next day I walked into work, and the
So
guy,
almost a year ago, basically.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I walked into work the next day, and
And by
sat
the
with
way,
owner.
COVID was not over, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
I don't think it's ever over.
Well,
but,
right, yeah. But it wasn't
yeah,
what it is now,
sure.
at least, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so I walked in.
Shutdowns, you've got a lot.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of outside pressures to make some
For sure.
pretty hefty decisions, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it comes with the territory, and being a vice president for such a big, a big company for the last
People would
10
say
years.
that's kind of stupid. You're in a great spot,
Exactly.
right?
Well,
yeah.
he did. And
Yeah.
I was just telling Shannon before we walked in here, my family even looked at me and said, "That's crazy. You do really well. And, you come and go as you please." I would play golf a couple days a week,
Yeah,
just to
right.
get out of the shop because everything was running good. So I was kind of reaping the benefits at that point.
Yeah.
But, I'm always a guy that needs to be challenged,
Right,
too.
right,
And
yeah.
so I felt like I did what I wanted to do there for the last 4 years, and it was just time for me to go.
Yeah.
And so, I talked to the owner. He was a good friend of mine. I actually started with him in 2000. And he said, "Is there anything I can do?" I said, "No, the decision's made.
Yeah.
There's just more important things out there." And he really thought that I had something already planned. And I said, "You have my word. That's not the case."
Yeah, right, yeah.
And he's like, "So what are you going to do?" And I'm like, "I don't know, but I'll figure it out. I'm not scared."
Yeah, right,
This
right.
was this unbelievable feeling of, hey, you need to
Right.
go.
Right, right,
And
right.
I can't explain it. And sometimes when you're trying to talk to people that don't have a lot of faith, they don't understand.
Sure,
that side of
different
it.
perspective, right? Yeah.
So I prayed on it, and we were sitting in church a couple weeks later, and we were talking about redemption in the Bible and what that meant, and immediately I knew. And so we had a company name, and I filed for all the LLCs and all that stuff. And we went to Florida for 2 weeks in December. And
Yeah.
I said, it's just family time. I said, I
Yeah,
want to
sure.
talk about work. We'll figure this out when we
Yeah.
get back. As soon as we got back, it was off to the races. And then in March, I signed for a building, had all the private equity in the bank, put a lot of my money into it, and we built out a shop in about 45 days. It was just
Wow.
it was insane, from seeing
Yeah.
an empty building to,
Oh, yeah.
obviously,
Yeah.
building it out
Yeah.
and cutting
This
the
went
first
from a
shops.
really crazy thought to this thing's real right
Yeah,
now.
for sure. And,
To now doing 10 to 15 kitchens a week
yeah.
a year later.
Yeah, for
That's
sure.
impressive.
Wow.
And so the business plan, was, man, if we could get to, a kitchen a day by the end of the year,
Yeah.
would be amazing. We blew that out of the water, and with all my experience, everything is built, right? So as
Yeah.
we grow, there's no growing pains in the sense of processing, because everything's there from me running huge,
Right,
biggest
sure,
companies in
yeah.
the nation,
Yep.
right? So
Yeah. Your infrastructure was pretty much built
already
day
there.
one, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
and so it's overkill, right,
Yeah.
for what we need right now, to be honest.
Yeah.
But as we grow, I don't have to worry about that.
Right,
I
right.
don't have to worry about the mistakes and, the information, maybe making sure it passes along the right way. And, so I got some of the best guys in the business. And, I truly believe that you're only as good as the people around you.
Right.
And these guys have been amazing to me. When I started this, I called them and I said, "Hey, I'm getting ready to start this.
Yeah.
I can't promise anything, but you've worked for me for a while.
Right.
And, obviously they like me as the person that I am.
Yeah.
Of working with them, and it was
Yeah.
a no-brainer. So
Right.
you know, I had some of the best guys in the industry follow me, and it's been an amazing deal so far.
Oh, really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Awesome.
It's interesting because I feel like the two of you have a lot in common in terms of both men of faith,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
You know, just really following God's plan in both of your lives. That's kind of what attracted me to Royal Oath, and we're working here with Brian through the real estate team is just his foundational faith and really just doing what's best for people. And I think you have that same mindset. So
For sure.
Yeah.
pretty pumped to have both of you in the room together
Yeah.
today.
Awesome.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, one of the terms of like core values, I kind of heard you say like faith, like the business was bigger than you, right? And there was a bigger purpose than just making money, right? Obviously that's important and that's really nice or whatever, but having good people around you, having faith that, you know, someone bigger than you is watching your back and trying to help you. I know certainly I could tell you stories of the last 10 years of owning my business of where I just didn't see a way, and all of a sudden it was just like, there it is, you know. And I think, you know, you always go back to the basics, like, yeah, I better be praying about this, because if something big doesn't happen, it could, you know, you just get in those tight spots. But it's also a moment that where you go, hey, this is supposed to be, right? And for me, I know that one of my larger purposes in life is to impact the people that I work with every day, right? There's a book called The 3 Sides of a Miserable Job that a lot of what I based my business off of was that the idea that most people are miserable in their jobs, right? And a lot of it has to do with leadership.
Absolutely.
So if I could have a direct impact, because job misery then affects like your personal life, how you feel on a daily basis about either A, your purpose, or B, you know, get up and go to this job every day or whatever, because you spend so much time with just almost as much time with your family, sometimes more, depending on what season of business you're in. So then it's like, okay, how do I create the best possible culture so that not only can people enjoy what they do, they can grow as a professional, they can grow as a person. You know, I get pretty personal as a leader with people. I think you know that. Like, I ask some really tough questions, you know. What are your goals? What are you on track for? Are your finances meeting, you know, where they need to be? How's your mental health? How's your spiritual health? Where are you at as a, you know, as an individual? And are you trying to be the best version of yourself as possible? So, you know, similar, it sounds like core values to redemption. I guess going back though, and I think faith is definitely one of the answers, but I mean, a lot of people have faith. How do you get the guts to go, I'm quitting this really great gig? And I get the faith thing, but like, are you like naturally a risk taker? Are you like, like how does someone come to that conclusion? And it's not like you were like, I didn't have anything else to do, so I just put this business together. I mean, you stepped away from something that was really good, but on a personal level, you weren't feeling like it was really working for you, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, I'm a calculated risk taker, the best I could put it. But I've made a career in trying things, and you know, I've lived in Texas for a couple of years. I've never been scared to try things. You know, so I went through a really bad time of life, and probably 14, 15 years ago, just wasn't a good guy, you know, drinking, you know, that overtakes you, and just a really bad person in general. And I'm very open about it, because I wouldn't change anything.
Yeah, right.
So my lifestyle is a little bit different. I went to military school from 7th grade all the way to senior year.
Okay.
I was used to being, you know, kind of by myself. You know, those times you didn't do things right, and it was a very aggressive manner to get you to do what they wanted.
Yeah, right.
You know, so you know, when you get out of a structured environment like that, you kind of feel like you're free. And sometimes that's not good.
Try some things
right?
out. Yeah.
And so the transition,
bit,
the transition was really, really tough. And so, you know, I just went through a bad period of my life. And really, I realized that I was living for what I thought other people wanted me to be. The tough guy, you know, whatever it is. And I ended up getting in some trouble and did some time, you know, 15 years ago, and I was sitting there, and I said, I want nothing to do with this. This is crazy.
Yeah.
And so I ended up, you know, getting out, and I said, from here on out, I'm going to be the person that I want to be and not who other people want me to be.
Sure, yeah.
And so I packed 2 bags and I jumped on a flight. I had $5,000 in my bank account at the time, and I moved to California. Never even visited there. Just knew I wanted to get as far away from here as I possibly could.
Yeah.
Lived in somebody's garage in Woodland Hills for probably about 8 months, stuffing, wet towels in the dryer to stay warm at night, because people think California's hot, but when you're in the mountains, it gets really, really cold.
Yeah, right.
And so, through that, I ended up meeting a guy that was struggling in business in Santa Barbara, California, and I started running his shop for him, and he said, hey, this guy that I'm partners with I want to be done with him.
Right.
Would you consider partnering up with me and starting something? And I said, absolutely. And so within 5 years, we went from, hemorrhaging money, this guy was, to almost $5 million a year. We had numerous divisions, worked for a lot of high-end people in Santa Barbara, and did a lot of stuff that people couldn't. And so I actually credit Michigan, because Michigan people work harder than I feel like any state, really. You know, and so when you take a guy like me who wants to be successful and hustles to a place in California, Santa Barbara, where everything's fine, and when it gets done, and you're out there hustling.
Yeah, right.
They're like, who's this guy?
Yeah,
and so basically I went there and I made a lot of people mad by undercutting all the competition, and got my name out there, and next thing
and
you
then
know,
did
we
a good
were-
job
yeah,
and did it in a timely manner, right?
faster than
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah.
So then all of a sudden we grew a clientele base, and really the clientele base was a lot of billionaires, and they trusted me, right? And so they're flying me on their private jets to go pick out material in Colorado and this, and I'm like sitting there. I remember one time in a plane.
You're like,
and
I was
I'm
just
like,
taking towels out of the dryer, and now
right,
I'm
man.
some dude's
And-
jet now.
And
Yeah.
I'm thinking, at that point, and this girl, I'll never forget, Katie, who was a stewardess. I'm like, I walked in the plane. I'm like, hey, I'm not supposed to be here, right? Like, this is not supposed to be what happens. And she's like, enjoy it. It's fine.
Yeah, right,
Sergey
yeah.
said to take care of you. And
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And so, like, after the second or third time, I remember I was walking up the stairs to the plane, and I just dropped my bag in front of her and walked in, and she kind of looks at me like, and I'm like, hey, you said to act the part,
Yeah.
and we got a good kick out of it. And
Yeah.
so when I went there, it was really good, and we were doing a lot of architectural stuff and just growing tremendously. And I got a pretty bad end of the deal. I found out my business partner was taking money, and I'm not great at finance. I can grow a company, I can talk to people, and,
Yeah.
really make them trust in the business. When it comes to the financing side, that's not my strong point, right?
Yeah.
So like Redemption, I have a certified CPA that does all of that,
Right,
because that
yeah.
was important to me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's expensive, right?
Yeah.
And but it was necessary, right?
Yeah.
Because I didn't want that to be the crippling side of Redemption, and
Sure,
act
yeah.
like I knew that. when I don't, right? 'Cause
Well,
my
you have
focus-
to surround yourself with your
for sure.
your strengths.
Yep.
If you're weak in one area, you have to find that other
100%.
person. Yeah, yeah.
And
You
so
can't
my
be
focus
great at everything.
is selling,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And the workload and that
Yeah.
stuff. So I ended up finding this out, and it was a struggle. You
Yeah.
know? It was really tough for me because, I put everything that I had into it. And so we ended up splitting, and my side got bought out, and it was just really tough for me at that time.
Right, yeah.
Because I'm thinking, why would he do this? Maybe
Right.
I'm not as good as I thought I was.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm not bringing stuff to the table like I
Sure.
should be, and it was really tough. So when I moved back to Michigan, I just wanted to clear my mind. At that point, I was really involved in church in California,
Yeah.
a place called Reality, and and so it was kind of the foundation of where we
Okay.
are now.
Yeah.
And then when I came back here, I met up with a guy that has a robotic company. His name's Chuck Russo, owns a company called Baca Systems. That's the robot I have. He had a fabrication company. It wasn't doing the
Yeah.
greatest because his focus was the robotics.
Yeah.
And so we did like a huge turn for that. I merged it with another huge company. And so for like 2 years, I was basically taking 6-7 locations throughout the United States
Okay.
and merging them to communicate all together
Wow.
and produce and logistics, shipping, everything, hub and spoke mentality. And then they bought him out. So I'm
Right,
kind
yeah.
of like sitting there
Yeah.
again, like,
Wow.
what is going on right now, you
Yeah.
know? And then that led me to the last company I was working at. So
Wow.
so through this process, it was a lot of self-doubt, like
Yeah.
why do these things keep happening? But through that, you find out what you're good at and what you're capable of.
Yeah.
So when I made that decision, it was kind of easy for me because I kind of qualified of what I've been doing for the last 10 years of fixing everybody else's stuff.
Yeah.
You know, so it was a pretty easy transition to know,
Yeah,
like,
sure.
hey, we'll be okay. And like you said,
Yeah.
like things just happen. I mean,
Yeah.
there's been weeks at Redemption that I'm talking to my fiance Lila, and I'm like, this is not good. Like, I built a Cadillac of a granite shop. I didn't build a Honda.
Yeah, right.
Like,
yeah.
we need work. And I would pray on it, and like the next 2 days it would just like flood in with people, and I'm like,
Yeah.
he's so good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
so crazy.
Yeah.
So really these days the fear of, you know, financial gain to
Right,
me
yeah,
is
yeah.
very minimal on
Yeah,
my
right.
scope.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because to be completely honest, I'm spending every dollar that I've made, right? And,
Right,
and
right.
I haven't been paid in over a year.
Yeah.
And the business could pay me, but
Yeah.
I choose not to because
Yeah,
it's my
sure.
baby.
Yeah,
right
you're
now.
trying to reinvest and grow
Absolutely.
and scale, which
I'd
is,
rather
seems
bring in
like
the
it's
next
your,
guy,
your
right?
specialty, right? Yeah. Yeah.
For sure.
That's
So
incredible.
that's kind of how it all led up to it. So
Okay.
you know, I've been kind of around for a while, and it's just kind of trying to find my home. And I
Yeah.
thought in California I really did, because you know we
Yeah.
were doing so well. I'm thinking, man, another 5 or 6 years of this, I'd be really set, you know,
Yeah.
for a while.
Yeah.
And then to find that out was just, it was heartbreaking, man.
Yeah.
You know? So even leaving Hard Rock, you know, the last company that
Yeah.
I ran and was a VP for,
Yeah.
even though it was my choice, you know,
Yeah.
I was almost in tears, you know, because it was my baby.
Right. Sure. Yeah.
I gave people quality of life back. They liked working where they were. I tell these companies that I consult for, if you want to fix your company and make more money, fix morale.
Yeah.
If people like where they come into work,
Yeah.
right? All
Yeah.
this other stuff you don't have to worry about. Between that and communication and understanding
Yeah,
what your
right.
people
Yeah.
actually do
Yes.
on a daily basis.
Right. Right.
You know, because that was the biggest thing. I'd walk into companies and say, okay, what does Katie do here? And the owner would tell me, Katie does this, this, and this. And I would go interview Katie later and say,
Yeah.
hey, I'm trying to help here. You know, so what do you do every day? And I go back to the owner and be like, so what you think Katie does and what Katie thinks she does are two separate things.
Right, yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
And the reason why you guys are headbutting is because you guys are not on the same page.
Expectations, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, like, you have to set an expectation. You
Yeah.
have to explain to somebody what their job is and what you expect on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
Your job as the owner or a boss is to make sure that they have a clear path to get to the finish line.
Right.
And if you don't, then
Yeah.
it's not their fault. You need to sit in a mirror and say, what am I doing wrong?
Right.
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 And so I've always had that because I've been a worker before I was ever an owner or running places. And so I sat there most of the
Huge
times going,
advantage.
hey,
Huge advantage.
if you did
Yeah.
this, it would be better.
Yep.
And people didn't listen.
Yep.
And then I came to a point where I said, well, I make the decisions.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I'm going to make the decisions for who I was 10 years ago that wanted to see change.
Correct.
You know?
Wow. Yeah.
So-
That's so similar to my company because I spent 5 years prior to that. I was in some management positions, but my first gig in insurance was sitting and selling insurance at an agent's office.
Right.
So my people can never tell me I don't understand what they're doing
Right.
on a daily basis because I've actually done it.
Sure.
Has times changed? Actually, I think it's easier for them now. Sometimes I used to grab like a rate manual and manually calculate
Right.
stuff. It's
Right.
like, even
Right.
though I was 15 years ago, technology has changed, stuff like that. But the market is different, whatever. But I agree with you when you've sat in that seat and you can understand what they're going through on a daily basis. So then when you formulate your expectations and you formulate a job description and how you manage them,
Right.
you understand that, like, especially in our business, it's like it can be so chaotic because whatever is urgent is the thing you have to do.
Sure.
That sale is on the other line, or someone's ready to close, or someone has a fire or a claim or something, and you have to be Johnny on the spot. You have to be ready to drop your other 50 things that you're doing and pay attention to that one. So, I can understand and appreciate what you're saying about like
Right.
level setting expectations, which ultimately does go back to the morale, the culture. It's like
100%.
your direct manager understands how you feel. They know your job. They understand it. It creates a whole different playing field, I think, for your employees. So
I agree. Couldn't agree more.
yeah. I keep hearing this similar thread of everywhere you've went, you've added value, right? And you've problem solved, which I think is a big part of being successful in business. What are the problems? How can I fix them?
For sure.
And then it's like, how can I add value? How can I change the culture? But then, what's the, like, for instance, the value add I heard you say, one of the things you guys do is you go in a house, you take time and make the relationship with the person. You don't just, okay, I'm going to give you a quote and here you go and I'm on to my next one. But from a homeowner's perspective, right, if you're in my house, you know, that means my family's probably going to be home when your workers are there, right? It's something that I have to live with if it doesn't work out well, because, you know, my wife's going to be upset that the kitchen doesn't look right. And, you know, you hired this guy or whatever, or she hired him. I don't know how the setup. I know in my house, she would trust me to be like, yeah, pick the person or whatever.
Right.
But, I mean, there's a lot of things, and the trust factor is big. And it can't just be, because there's a lot of people who use genuineness to manipulate, right?
For sure.
So it can't just be like, oh, well, I trust you because I met you once and you seem nice, but you also have to deliver, right?
Sure.
So I could like you as much as you want. You could have a good price, but like you said, your stuff got done in a timely manner. So how do you like manage those deadlines and expectations, you know, with the customer so that they understand, and then you actually deliver on it, and you do what you say you're going to do.
Yeah.
That's another big part of what you're saying too, right?
Yeah. So I never, you know, when I set expectations, it's always something that can be achieved. You know, I'm never just putting myself out there to say something that can't be done.
Yeah.
My mindset is, so I just talked to a huge builder yesterday.
Yeah.
Right. And he said, hey, I got this house, you know, this guy messed it up. Can you help me out? I said, sure. You want it tomorrow? And he started laughing. I'm like, I'm not joking. If I have to stay here till 2:00 in the morning to make it happen, to do further business with you, like, I can carve out some sleep. It's okay.
Yeah, right.
So, but then on top of it, you know, I'm a big computer synchronous flow guy, right?
Okay.
And so I work with a coding team out of India of about 6 guys for about 8 months in a company called Stone Apps. And basically, I took all of my knowledge and put it on the computer of what I think the business should look like. So when I first did it, we were doing all the lows through the state of Michigan.
Yeah.
And the turnaround time was like 5 weeks from date of signature. It was just ridiculous. And I was just starting back at the company that I was telling you. And I said, okay, well, this guy's here. He owns a company. And I sat with him in the conference room for like 6 months. Yeah. And we kind of developed this whole system that he took to market. And now he's selling through the nation. And he's got tons of clients. All my buddies in the nation are using it. It's an inventory system. It's all this.
Yeah.
But it's task driven, right? So, you know, everything has a task. Everything has a place. And so I'm not savvy on computers. You know, my thing is make it, you know, as simple as possible for guys like me.
Right.
That know the business, but they're not computer savvy.
Right, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So simplify it. And that's what we did for like 6 months.
Wow.
And so, you know, really, I would kind of say, you know, I would draw it out and be like, if it could do this and this and look like this. And he'd go, okay. And then 2 days later, his coders would put it in staging. It would come back to us. I would look at it, look at the functionality. We would change a couple things. And then bam, you know, it was actually in place. And that's something that I did huge for the company that I ran before was to stop hemorrhaging money, right? Useless money that's just going out the door, right? What are the things that we can do to stop that? And I'm a big guy in information, right? Like you have to have the information. There. If I start chasing down information, I'm going to make a mistake. And it's only going to cost me money, not the end user, because I'm not going to turn around to the consumer and say, hey, because I was chasing it down. No, I have to prepare you of what's going to happen through this process.
Right.
Have your sink there, have your faucet there, right?
Right.
I will not measure without it. And so really it's you know, like for Lowe's, the turnaround time, we took it from 5 weeks to 2 weeks to 10 to 14 day turn, right? And we were just really able to do that is we were dangling the carrot in front of the consumer. We knew one thing. A consumer, when they pay for something, they want it as fast as possible.
Right.
That's not a secret.
Well,
I'm like
especially
that
for
too.
something like a countertop.
For
Because
sure.
you do a reno project, that's pretty much the last piece, right?
Absolutely.
There's a sense of urgency with some countertops. So.
So all we did was like, okay, if you have a variance in square footage, we can't move forward. If you want to keep your install date, I'm dangling the carrot. Here's your install date. You have to go into the store and take care of whatever you need to take care of so I can install you. And so we just kind of changed the culture, you know? And so all those little things, you know, is what I explain to customers. It obviously helps being fully robotic, you know, in the company that I can cut twice as fast as anybody else. I kind of feel like sometimes I've sold out, you know, because I come from an old school mentality of cutting on a table by hand and doing all the edges by hand. And now I press a button and the robot flies around and cuts it. And I'm like, you know, but, you know, I'm also, I believe in adapting, you know, with what's happening out there. And if you're not part of that curve, then you're just going to kind of be on the sidelines. And if you want to do these multi-million-dollar houses that we're doing and all this porcelain and full, slab showers,
right.
then you have to have the equipment to do it.
Yeah.
And so that's why we invested. We put about 750 grand into the shop.
Wow.
And I have more equipment on order, and so
Yeah.
I built the company to give the best quality product that we possibly could with
Yeah.
that middle price point, right?
Yeah, right.
And then I tell Lila all the time. I said nothing's more important than dealing with customers, answering questions, right?
Yeah, right,
Stuff
right.
like that.
Yeah.
Because if we do all that up front, then once we have all the information, I go to template, everything flies.
Nice.
I can be as fast as you want me to be.
Nice.
If I'm not chasing stuff down, if you don't have a lot of questions. So let's get that out of the way up front.
Yeah.
And then let's sign the contract. Let's
Yep.
take a deposit. And then at that point, you have no questions for me because everything's already done.
Awesome.
And so that's kind of what we do where, we're just not money grabbers,
Yeah,
at that point.
sure.
So
Yeah, and I could tell that right away when I came into the shop to look for a piece for the basement.
Yeah.
I kind of knew what I wanted.
Yep.
And you said, well, that's going to be kind of pricey.
for sure.
And you showed me a remnant, actually, because you said, because I have black cabinets. And so you said, I think this would go really great. And it was actually a remnant piece, which would have saved me quite a bit of money.
Yeah.
But you made that recommendation. And I
Sure.
think a lot of people wouldn't have done that. So it said a lot about your character. I appreciated that.
We try. Like I had somebody in the shop last week and they wanted granite. And I said, okay, what makes you think that you want granite? Because I qualify. You got to ask questions.
Yeah, right.
And he said, because we can't afford quartz. And I said, who said that?
Right.
And he said, well, we just looked at the prices and this and that. And
Yeah.
I'm like, well, you're home now. So don't worry about what these other guys are telling you.
Yeah.
And so I talked to him and I said, look, I just cut this job. I had 2 slabs for the job that I just cut. I allocated the cost for both of those slabs towards that last job. So I'm sitting on this. This is my liquid cash sitting.
Right.
Do you like this color? He said, I love this color. I said, okay, when I price out your job, I don't have to buy 2 slabs for your job now. I can utilize that half slab as long as I can get a matching slab, which we did,
Right.
and
Yeah.
get you into the price point you want.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, they got something that they never thought that they could get.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Right? But if
yeah.
we didn't ask those questions, that customer would have just settled on
Right.
something just because of price.
Yeah.
There's always a tricky way to go around things.
Sure.
And sometimes maybe there's not.
Yeah.
But 90% of the time, we can
Yeah,
figure it
just
out.
dig in a little
For
bit,
sure.
right?
And
yeah.
we're willing to do that work, right?
Yeah.
So it's easy for me to call 8 suppliers and say, I'm looking for this color. Do you have 2 slabs left of a bundle
Yeah,
that
right.
you'll give me a great deal? And then I pass it through to the customer.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And that's kind of what we're doing here.
Nice.
So when you read Redemption's reviews, people aren't just reviewing us as far as like they did great. I mean, they're writing books
Yeah,
about the process, about, just their experience in general.
Yeah.
So customer service company.
That's awesome. Just if you could tell our listeners what all services A to Z, that things that you offer if someone wanted to get a hold of you to do that.
So we focus on anything from the smallest vanity, right, to the largest shower-cladded porcelain, go up the ceiling 30 feet in the air. If you can dream it, we can do it, right?
So is that residential and commercial?
I stay away from commercial because commercial gets a little bit tough, right?
Okay.
Now, if it's a commercial building and somebody just wants to do a bunch of countertops and bathrooms and
Yeah,
stuff
sure,
like that.
okay.
But commercial, in my mind, right,
Yeah.
is shipping
Is
it to
it-
Utah and doing a casino. That's not what I want my company to be.
Building
Yeah.
out a Pacer stadium?
That's not what I want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like our office, if we
Absolutely.
needed something here, okay,
100%.
so you could
Yep.
do that.
Yep.
So kitchen remods, basement remods.
We offer cabinets, so we do cabinets.
Okay.
I work with a couple really close cabinet companies that are
Okay.
fantastic. So
Yeah.
really qualifying. Okay, you want to spend a bunch of money on cabinets, high end, mid grade,
Yeah.
what that is, and then I kind of just we like to marry a lot of people.
Yeah.
I believe in hitting a lot of singles instead of home runs off of each customer.
Yeah, right.
And we're growing
Right.
so much because of that, and so I go talk to this cabinet guy.
Yep.
And you're gonna need a discount because you work with Redemption, right?
Yeah.
I carry a couple tile guys on staff, so we do tile as well. It's not something that we're huge into. Once again, that's just a pass through to the customer, right?
Right,
Because my
right.
core business is really countertops.
Okay.
Right.
Yep.
And so I'm afraid that as we grow, if I try to tackle all those things, then the quality is going to lack, and that's not something that I'm willing to give up. Right.
Yeah.
But if I can make it easier for you and say, oh, you need an appliance guy, I have a buddy. name Appliance Plug that
Yeah.
buys all LG stuff. So if you return it to Home Depot, this guy buys it all 50 cents on the dollar. Could have a little scratch, right?
Yeah, right.
And it's getting hit by a wall and you're spending 50% less. Here,
Nice.
customer, go talk to them, right?
Nice.
Oh, you need tile guy? Here's 2 of my tile guys.
Right.
So I believe in just passing that along.
Yeah.
Because it helps my core business, which
Sure.
is countertops, right?
Yeah.
So we offer a lot. I mean, painters. I mean, I've been doing it for 23
Yeah.
years.
So you know everybody.
So I know
yeah.
everybody,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
these guys that I work with, I mean, they're not just like I met 6 months ago.
Right.
I've known them for 10, 15 years.
Yeah, sure.
So I would never pass along information to somebody and put my name on it if I didn't trust them
Right,
that they
yeah.
would do a good job. And I just had somebody in the shop yesterday. She goes, a tile guy, and I go, look, this guy just went off on his own, right? He's a great guy. He's not licensed and insured yet. I said, but I know him really well. He's done tons of work for me, so I would run it through
Yeah.
my company so you would understand if anything ever happened, right? I'm licensed, I'm insured. I would come take care of it.
Sure. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And she was like, that's great. Because she
Yeah.
felt a little uncomfortable. I said, hold on, let me be clear. I'm going to run it through Redemption.
Yeah.
And he technically works for me,
Yeah.
right?
Sure.
But he does his own stuff too.
Yeah. Sure.
And in the world that we're in right now, trying to find trades
Oh,
is
geez, yeah.
unbelievable.
Right.
So if I can give those stuff to
Yep.
people and,
Yep.
and make their life a little easier, I'm all about that.
Awesome. Cool.
So a
Sounds
bunch
like I
of-
need to talk
bunch
to
of
a
little
buddy who needs
singles.
insurance too.
Yeah, for sure. He's
Cool.
a good guy. Just went off on his
Yeah,
own, made that
good.
leap, right?
Yeah.
And so right now his mentality, unfortunately, is like I just got to take care of my family and pay the bills.
Oh yeah.
For me, when Redemption started to take that hit of 7 to 10 grand up front.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
It was planned for. The business plan
Sure,
was
yeah.
there. This was very calculated. I know most people don't have that
Yeah.
advantage.
Sure. Yeah.
Luckily, I have some really good people around me.
Yeah, right,
So,
yeah.
the questions that I had of saying like, okay, what does this look like? What does
Right.
that
Yeah.
look like?
Yeah.
And the business plan that I sat down and wrote with a good buddy of mine who does that for a living is just incredible.
Yeah.
So we have it, all the way through a 5-year plan, but now we have to go back and rewrite it because God willing, it's growing so fast, right? That we said, if we could do this by the end
Yeah.
of the year, and
Yeah.
we blew that away.
Absolutely.
So now it becomes sitting down and restructuring that
Sure.
and figuring it out, and we want to move into the Carolinas next year. That's a big goal of mine.
Wow.
So we want to do a satellite shop out there.
Cool.
Because Redemption's really known for a lot of specialty materials, right?
Yeah.
So porcelains that are new, decked on ultra compact materials.
Yeah.
A lot of guys can't cut that without the right equipment.
Okay.
So what's happening right now is a lot of fabricators that are in the same business as me are selling these jobs because they're good profit, and then they're paying me to do it. So I'm
Right,
kind of the
right.
Wizard of Oz guy.
Yeah.
behind,
Right.
and we're doing it for all these
Yeah.
people, and I'm like, I love the business, but I get a little upset sometimes that I want to jump in front and say, with my whole team, like, we're the ones doing this.
Yeah, right, right,
We're
right,
making
right.
this
Yeah,
look
right,
beautiful.
right,
but
right.
I'm also a business owner, and
Yeah,
so,
right, yeah.
if they want to, give me the work, then I'm fine with that.
Oh, of
too.
course. Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah, it's hard though sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. And you guys are on social media too. So if some of our audience wanted
Yeah.
to look you guys up and follow you, you're on Facebook, right?
Facebook.
Redemption Stonecraft.
Yeah, we have Instagram, stuff like that. Lila does a really good job. We post a lot of videos, educational videos of
Yeah.
how we do stuff, how we cut things, how we vein match things. So it's really good to get on there and kind of see, what we do. We always tell people, come on in, take a look at the shop, even if you're not, looking for countertops. I mean, it's something really cool to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The process and all that stuff. Super clean shop. You've been there,
Yeah.
And that's a big difference between
Yeah.
us is you walk in, everything's clean, everything's where it should be. And I have a lot of customers that sign with us just because of that. They
Nice.
go to other guys and it's full of dust and you
Sure.
can't see, and then you come into ours and it's really clean and tidy, and I feel like that transitions to how we're going to work in your house. So
Right,
that's big
yeah.
for us too.
For
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. What's a good phone number if people want to get a hold of you?
Honestly, it's probably 586-250-8642. That's my personal cell. They can
Yeah.
also call the office where Delilah's there.
Okay.
I always like to talk to customers before we start
Yeah.
the job. So even if Delilah sells it, I'm on the phone with them. Hey, do you have any questions for me? Any technical questions? Would you like to see the layout before we cut the job?
Right.
I always like to ask a lot of those questions. I like to be involved. So.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, and if we have any clients that are interested
Yeah.
in taking a tour, I'd love to take anyone over as well. I
Yeah,
love
right.
HGTV and home
Yeah.
design, that kind of thing. I'd
Yeah.
love to help you out with making those choices on your granite or quartz or whatever it may be. So
Awesome.
happy to help.
Yeah. Cool. Well, and this plays a lot into what you do, right, Shannon? I mean,
Oh,
you're
yeah.
trying to
Yeah.
help people find the
Yeah.
home of their dreams, and usually it's not, you don't walk in a house and it's just like, oh, that's the one I want. You know, they say, hey, if we did this, you know,
sure.
call our guy here. You have a really good design eye,
For
you know.
sure.
So if people wanted to get a hold of you, Shannon, if they've got to buy or sell a home, what do they need to do?
So you can reach me. My cell is 586-260-9908, or you can look me up on social media, which is Savona Sells Homes. On Instagram, I'm also on Facebook. So
Nice. And we'll put these, we'll put all the phone numbers and stuff when we edit the video, and you'll have it at the bottom there so people can get a hold of you. So,
For
yeah.
sure.
Awesome.
Awesome. Thanks,
Cool.
Brian. We
Yeah.
appreciate you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Bobby, it was
Yeah.
great having you
Yeah,
in today.
thank you for having me. I
Great.
really appreciate it, guys.
Awesome. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you so much. I was
Yeah.
really encouraged today to hear your story.
Sweet.
Thank you for your transparency with us.
Yeah.
And, you know, just, you know, that's not always easy to put your story out there, but I mean, it's pretty incredible kind of how the failures just led to,
For sure.
you know, being able to, you know, have redemption
Right.
and, you know, do something completely new and different. And one failure led to something you never thought, you know, and that's kind of the amazing story of faith and also just hard work and believing, you know.
I agree.
And doing the right thing and taking care of people. So
Yeah, try
anyway.
to every day, man.
Awesome. Cool. Well, it's been super inspiring for me and for us to have you here. And so thank you so much
Yeah,
for
thanks for
stopping in
having me.
today.
I appreciate it.
All right.
All right,
Awesome.
guys.
Yep.
Take it easy.
Take care.